That's it. I don't even care anymore. I know it's only 2 games in and he's only 19 years old, but I'm officially declaring it. The Matty Beniers era has begun. What's cracking, everybody, and welcome back to Kraken R&R, where the Seattle Kraken win in shootout over the New Jersey Devils. And yeah, I know they're the Devils. They're 4th to last in the league, while the Kraken are 3rd to last. But I gotta be honest, I have never been anywhere near this excited about a team that is 3rd to last in their league. And mind you, I grew up with the '90s Seahawks, plus I've watched the Mariners now for the last 21 years. Yes, including 2008 and 2010. And even just as far as hockey is concerned, before the Kraken showed up, I decided to become an Avs fan in 2012. So yeah, I've seen some bad teams. Now, why so much excitement over a team that only has 54 points in 74 games, and all they did was beat the 4th worst team in the league? I hear you not asking. Well, that's for the very same reason that you're not asking the question, and that's because we all know very well. But just in case you aren't aware, I'll give you a little bit of a hint. He goes by Matty. With the lineups coming into this game, it's worth mentioning on the Devils end that former Kraken Nathan Bastian is in the lineup for them, who was playing for the Kraken the last time these teams met at the beginning of the season. Of course, it's been a long time since he played for Seattle, and I'm not going to mention every time that an ex-Kraken player plays against them, but considering this is only the 2nd time it's happened, and the first time was just a game ago in Calgary with Yarncroke, I figured it was worth throwing in. As far as the Kraken are concerned, Grubauer is in goal, and Hayden Fleury's back for the Kraken off of injury, taking the place of his brother Cale in the defensive pairings. But all anybody cared about and was there to see, maybe outside of Devil fans, but maybe even some of them, was the home debut of Matty Beniers for the Seattle Kraken. For Beniers, coming off of a great first game in the NHL, being one of, if not the best Kraken out on the ice against Calgary a few days ago. And pregame, you could feel and very much hear the excitement in the crowd as they announced Beniers. It was loud in the building, which got a little bit of a smile from him, but he was trying hard to keep a straight face and have that grizzled vet NHL mentality of not showing too much emotion. You know, even though he's only 2 games into his NHL career and playing his first game at home. And so, of course, naturally as the game gets started and he eventually gets that first home shift out on the ice, all eyes are on number 10 as he follows the play, which eventually ends up in the defensive zone. And while he doesn't get the puck on his stick, he does get his first block on home ice. Unfortunately, he takes it off the inside of a leg, and he very clearly comes up with a pretty bad limp, staying in the play for a little bit, but just not putting a lot of weight on that leg, eventually hobbling over to the bench. And yeah, that's not a very good sign. And even worse, while he's on the bench trying to tough it out, a sloppy start for the Kraken eventually pays off for the Devils as Jesper Bratt gets completely lost in the Kraken defense and finds the back of the net to give the Devils the early 1-0 lead. And to make matters worse, this goal for the Devils also comes on their first shot on goal of the game. For Grubauer, he does let in one that he probably should have saved here, as he did have time to get over and try to get set up for this Bratt shot. Even with that being said, while Grubauer should have had the save, the defense was still terrible, letting Bratt get that wide open. Fortunately, even though the Kraken, especially defensively, continue to play sloppy through the start of the first period, Grubauer is able to get it pulled together and is really the only reason that this game doesn't get out of hand quickly. Of course, the other piece of good news, even as New Jersey has a 1-0 lead and all the momentum in the game, is that Beniers is able to get out for his next shift on the ice and doesn't really look hobbled at all after taking that shot off the inside of his leg. However, as his third shift rolls around, Geeky's out there in the center spot of his line as he's gone to the locker room to get looked at. So yeah, not a good start in any shape, way, or form. And as the Devils go to the first power play of the game, it's looking like this could be a long night in Seattle, and a long one even without the main attraction being present. Of course, though, for reasons that still boggle the mind, with everything going against the Kraken, of all things, it's their penalty kill that finally gets the momentum turned around, not even allowing a chance on goal for the Devils. And while they don't get a shorthanded chance of their own, they are able to flip the momentum of the game at that man disadvantage. And not long after that first failed power play for the Devils of the game, it's the Kraken right back down to the other end of the ice. Koolman gets it to Rask, who doesn't find a shot to take as he skates down towards the goal line, but he does find a wide open Borgen to pass to as he enters the offensive zone, and Borgen buries the shot to give the Kraken their first goal of the game, tying it at 1. For Borgen, his second goal on the season and second goal of his career. And now with the Kraken finally deciding to show up to play this game, it's all Seattle for the rest of this period, including Beniers finding his way back out onto the ice, out of the locker room, and he would look perfectly fine as this game would go on. Really, the only time anything happens for the Devils the rest of the first period is one chance that they get back down at the other end of the ice, as the Kraken once again employ a questionable defensive strategy with the Devils entering the offensive zone against the momentum of the game and flow of play. The Kraken decide to form a 4-man defensive wall between the guy with the puck along the boards and another guy named Jesper wide open behind them in front of the net. While it was Jesper brought the first time, this time it's Jesper Boquist wide open in front of the Kraken net, and wouldn't you know it, the puck finds its way through that 4-man wall, right to Boquist, who, all alone in front of Grubauer, is able to beat him to make it 2-1 Devils. And in spite of the Kraken getting a few more chances before the end of the period, that's the score we would have going into the first intermission. Fortunately, the Kraken do get a power play early in the second, which, well, the power play has been an issue for Seattle the vast majority of the season. We do now get to watch Matty Beniers on the power play, as he got a couple of chances on that first power play unit in the last game, and once again was getting chances in this one. However, this first Seattle power play, outside of a shot from Beniers, really doesn't do much of anything, and the Devils are able to survive it without too much trouble. As the second period would go on for the Kraken, they would end up having to survive a couple more Devils power plays. And I do mean survive them. While this penalty kill has been very good for the Kraken, especially again over these last few weeks, these two power plays only end up not being successful for the Devils, thanks to one man, and that was Philip Grubauer, especially on the second one, coming up with an absolutely spectacular save on a puck that just kind of slid its way in front of the net across a couple of Kraken defenders before finding a Devil stick that gets a shot off on net that Grubauer's just barely able to get a toe to, diving back to the other side of the net. Of course, I suppose it's fair to mention that one of these Kraken penalty kills did have the big issue of Soucy having his stick broken on a block shot, which, although he did take Sheahan's stick, then basically made it a 3.5v5. Still, the Kraken survived both of these power plays, again thanks to Grubauer, and we get to the last few minutes of the second, with the score still 2-1 Devils. Fortunately, once again, it's the Kraken using these successful penalty kills to gain momentum in the game, and gain momentum they did, getting a number of good shots just after these power plays come to an end for the Devils, with Lind putting one off the post that somehow once again stays out for him, even though he does have that one goal still mostly snake-bitten for the Kraken. Eventually, though, they are able to capitalize, as Gord pulls a puck off the boards in the offensive zone, gets it out to McCann, who carries it farther into the offensive zone before finding a wide-open Carson Soucy coming in across the blue line. And to be fair, while we have mentioned so far that all three goals have come off of pretty wide-open looks, none of them come even close to how wide-open Soucy was, all alone on an entire side of the ice by himself. And with all the time in the world, he waits for the goaltender Dawes to overcommit to his side, and then fires a honestly kind of lazy looking shot into the far side of the net and tying the game at 2. And to make things even better for the Kraken, not long after the Soucy goal, they get their second power play of the game. And oh, what a power play it would turn out to be. Just about 30 seconds into the power play, there's a face-off in the Devils' end of the ice. And from here, oh, baby! McCann wins the faceoff out to Eberle, who gets the puck up to Dunn by the point. Dunn, waiting for just a second as McCann gets closer to the net, eventually fires a shot off that McCann is able to tip out in front. McCann's tip throws Dawes off just enough that the puck gets past him, but unfortunately, it ends up bouncing off of the post behind him and staying out of the net as it slides behind him. But it slides into the crease in front of a wide open net, and crashing on the other side is Matty Beniers beating his man, and he scores! The Kraken have a 3-2 lead, and Beniers his first goal in the NHL. It may not be as pretty as his first NHL point on that assist to Donato in Calgary, but it's a goal nonetheless, and the first of what looks like will be quite a number in the NHL for Matty Beniers, number 10 in the Kraken blue. And in case you're wondering whether or not he was excited about it, well, let's just put it this way. Maybe the biggest hit of the night, even though it doesn't end up on the stat sheet, would be him and McCann meeting behind the net to embrace after the goal. So yeah, it's safe to say he was pretty excited, and it was good to see especially those two, a big part of the Kraken future, celebrating behind the net on his first goal. And yes, in case you were wondering and saw it during that goal celebration, I am wearing JP PJs. So what, sue me, I like to be comfortable while recording these. Meanwhile, for the Kraken, who now have a 3-2 lead that they're able to carry into the third period, Well, having a lead certainly is better than not having it, and they even scored on a power play, so that's fun as well. Matty Beniers already fixing the Kraken power play in just 2 games. A 3-2 lead is not a particularly comfortable one for them, and that proves to be the case when the Devils end up scoring just a few minutes into the third. It's McLeod across to Severson, who, you guessed it, is wide open, and he ties the game at 3. Nathan Bastian also getting an assist on this goal. Now, I suppose to be fair to this particular defensive problem that the Kraken have, a lot of it did come off of Susi losing his stick again and having to take Wennberg's stick, who ended up being the guy that would have been able to break up that pass from McLeod to Severson, but without a stick, he isn't able to do it, and again, that ends up in the back of the net. And honestly, from there, the rest of the third period is rather uneventful, outside of at one point, Larson being a one-man defensive wrecking crew in the defensive end, and then back at the other end of the ice, Gord getting into it a couple of times with Devil players, and we even got to see the return of that grin on his face, which honestly, it seemed like it had been quite a while since we got to see that, but with the energy back in the building, again thanks to Beniers, we got to see the return of that Gord grin as he causes all sorts of issues and frustration from the guys wearing the black and red. And so eventually we do get to overtime, still tied at 3. And I mean, you know how 3-on-3 overtime is. Sometimes it's fast and exciting, and other times it's just 3 guys skating around in circles with the puck, more interested in keeping possession of it than actually trying to score with it. And in this game, again, between the 3rd and 4th worst records in the league, this one turns out to be a lot more of that version, which eventually bores Matty Beniers enough to the point where, with the puck in the offensive zone along the boards, he flips it up in the air to himself over a New Jersey defender, and then skates around that same New Jersey defender along the goal line with a power move to the net, tries to shove it past Dawes, but just can't quite get it past him. So the save is made by Dawes, but Beniers gets cross-checked in the back, tripping over Dawes and flying to the ice, which, while again, this doesn't lead to a Kraken game-winning goal, it does lead to a Kraken power play in OT, which means 4-on-3, and that is even better than the 5-on-4 that we usually get to see. Unfortunately, it doesn't lead to a Kraken goal, though in the final seconds, once again, it's Beniers trying to go between the legs to end it, though that is also shut down before actually even getting to the net, as he ends up just sliding it into open ice, not actually getting the shot off on goal. But you know what? Even though the between the legs move doesn't work for Beniers here, and he ends up whiffing on the actual shot part of it and just sliding between his legs out into open ice, it's just fun to see a guy on the Kraken actually trying that kind of thing, and in overtime no less, not to mention that once again, it's a 19-year-old in his 2nd NHL game trying this. And again, between that move, flipping the puck in the air to get around the Devil defenseman that created this power play in the first place, and now trying a between the legs shot, it's offensive creativity that, much like we talked about with that no-look pass in Calgary, is just not something we've seen to this point in the season for the Kraken. And even though it didn't end up working out here, eventually this guy's gonna pull off one of these moves and end up scoring with it. And with the way he's playing in 2 games, it might not even take that long for it to happen. As far as this game is concerned, though, we are headed to the shootout, where in the very first shot of that shootout, Ryan Donato puts an absolutely dirty move on Dawes, going backhand to forehand, back to the backhand, and sliding it right into the net as Dawes bit hard on the forehand move. And Donato gets the Kraken on the board just like that in the shootout. And eventually, that would prove to be enough as Grubauer stops all 3. Well, the third one ends up going off of a post, but none of the Devil shots go into the back of the net, and while Beniers also got a chance and put it off the post himself, the Kraken end up winning 4-3 in shootout. And once again, what a night for Seattle. A really fun one to be at for sure. Matty Beniers, his first goal in the NHL. For the Kraken, a comeback win, coming back from 1 goal down multiple times, and it is fun to watch shootouts in person. I mean, I understand all the complaints people have about the shootout, and I'm very glad it doesn't happen in the playoffs, but it still is fun to watch every now and then. As for takeaways from this game, can all 3 of them just be Beniers? We could go with Beniers 5-on-5, Beniers on the power play, and then Beniers in OT. I guess that probably would be copping out a little bit, but Matty Beniers has to be one of them for sure. Home opener, even after a very good first game. Again, that's just 1 game, and while this is just 2 games, he continued to shine in this one, even after that rough start to the game where he took that shot off the leg and spent most of the first period on and off the ice trying to get that potential injury worked out. Now, I'm sure he's going to have a pretty nasty looking bruise and probably a sore leg or foot or wherever it hit him tomorrow, but as far as tonight, he had a night to remember. And it is also worth mentioning again that while we have been spending a lot of time talking about Beniers on the offensive end in this one specifically, once again, he was good for the Kraken in all three areas of the ice. Once again, still very good on the defensive end and in transition through the neutral zone. So, at least so far anyway, definitely a player that has come as advertised. Good in all areas of the ice, and definitely very NHL ready, at least through these first two games. I mean, honestly, especially with him still being a point per game player now with a goal and an assist in 2 games, saying that he was NHL ready might even be putting it a bit modestly. As for other takeaways in this game, Grubauer I thought had a pretty fantastic game, all things considered. His stats really aren't going to look great coming out of this one, but he had a number of saves that kept the Kraken in this game early, and again, really was the main penalty killer on 2 of those penalty kills. Again, the Kraken penalty kill really being a momentum shifter for them, and changing the momentum of this game twice, even if it was Grubauer that had to do a lot of the work on the last 2 occasions. And the third and final takeaway is just going to be the atmosphere of the arena. It was absolutely rocking in that arena tonight. It was good to see the Seattle fan base, even with how this season has gone for the Kraken, showing up and welcoming Beniers with wide open and very loud arms. Something that he even mentioned after the game, especially being noticeable when he was first introduced at the opening introductions and then after his goal. Both times trying to hide the smile and again put that veteran stone face on, which he was kind of able to do successfully at the start of the game, but there was no hiding the smile after that first goal, which honestly, I'd like to see more of that stone-faced, oh yes, this is just another day in the league. I'm done with it. Let's get some more fun in there. And so with that, we'll wrap it up with the new norm in these R&Rs, the Kraken 3 stars of the game. And of course, the first one has to be Matty Beniers, his first NHL goal. And again, pretty much the story of this game, as you may have been able to tell throughout the course of this video. His number 2 star, I gotta give it to Jared McCann. A couple of big assists in this game. Again, the direct assist and primary one to the Soucy goal, as well as a tip to the net that ends up turning into that Beniers goal. He also almost put a couple in himself and had another good couple of passes that could have turned into goals very easily as well. McCann, great night for him, even playing on a couple of different lines. And the third Kraken star, I could pretty easily go with Grubauer. Again, I think he was a lot better than the stats give him credit for, but I'm gonna go with Yanni Gourde, who I think had quietly a pretty good game as well. Obviously, Ryan Donato ends up having the game-winning goal in the shootout, and also had a pretty good game in his own right. But yeah, I think Gourde had a game worth mentioning that otherwise would probably go unnoticed. And again, it was good to see that poop-eating grin, if you will, come back to the face of Gourde as he caused trouble and chaos in front of the net in the third period. As always though, I'd love to know what you thought of this game down in the comment section below, and maybe give me your 3 stars of the game. Though I swear, if any of you put Beniers anywhere other than number 1, we're gonna have some words. Other than that, if you have made it to this point, thank you very much for watching. If you did like or enjoy this video, there are buttons for that kind of stuff down below that help support the channel, so I'd appreciate you using them. And until next time, be good to each other, God bless, and go Kraken!